Hello, and welcome to episode number 17 of the Creative Mojo podcast. My name is Joanne, and I'm your host. I'm coming to you today from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And thanks for taking a little time to join me and listen to me talk about my love of knitting. If you are new to the podcast, I really appreciate you checking me out for the first time. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. It's been about 10 days, I think, almost 2 weeks actually, I think, since I last recorded. I'm thinking I'm going to call this episode All Work and No Play because that's kind of how I feel right now. I've been super crazy busy and so my knitting that I'm going to show you today is decidedly kind of unproductive, sadly. I just haven't had a lot of knitting time. Yeah, it's been a really busy 2 weeks. I started back into doing theater, which is my main job that I do throughout the winter months, and so through two-thirds of the year, I guess, basically. I started back rehearsing a play about a week ago, just over a week ago, and in addition to that, I'm getting geared up to teach on Mondays starting in 2 weeks, and I teach on Mondays during the winter at the university here. I teach stage management, which is what I do in the theater professionally, and I'm still doing also my job that I talked about on some earlier episodes. I also do a contract with a nonprofit organization here called the Asian Heritage Foundation, and I do a lot of work for them. And normally in the last few years, that work was wrapped up by this time of year, but that's not the case this year. The organization has been going through a lot of changes and revisioning and stuff, and so the work, which was primarily in the past in March, April, May, June kind of thing, has now stretched out into the fall and is still keeping me busy. I'm trying to back away a bit from that because I just don't have time for all of it, including my theater work. So, but we have a big event coming up this coming Monday night. So that's what I've been doing. Work, and not very much knitting, which is not good. Like, I miss it a lot when I don't have time. And when I get as busy as this, I get home from work and I sit down on the couch and I feel like I should pull up my knitting and knit something, and then I just sit and sort of stare at it. I don't even have necessarily the energy often to start something. So I do have 2 projects I'm working on a bit, and I will show you the work I'm doing on those, but I wish I had time for more because I have lots of other things I'd like to be working on. I've been sort of dreaming of some new projects, and I'm just hoping that things will slow down a little bit after the next couple of weeks. This is going to be a little bit more realistic for me into probably mid to late October. I'm going to be mid-October, I guess. I'm going to remain kind of busy as things have geared up, and I've got a couple of sort of overlapping contracts, as I said. And so hopefully by mid-October things will kind of slow down and settle down a little bit. But in the meantime, you'll notice I'm in a different location today than I have been the last number of episodes. I'm back in my living room because it's 7 o'clock at night. I just got home from work about a half an hour ago and thought, oh, I'm going to try and get this in before I totally lose the light in the house. But the light where I normally shoot, that's a great spot if it's in the middle of the day, that it's got decent lighting, but this time of day it doesn't. So I've set myself up where I have some light coming in from the living room window. But yeah, I just got home from work today and I thought I need to get this done because I don't know if I didn't do it when I got home today, I didn't know when I would do it. So let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about, actually, you know what, before I show you knitting, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the other things that I got up to this week in addition to work. The most, because 2 kind of fun and exciting things happened this week. One of them was that I got to hang out with a couple of excellent knitter friends this week. It's really, really cool when you get to meet people that you've met in the knitting community, that you've met kind of on the internet but haven't met in person. It's really awesome when you get to meet them in person. I highly recommend it if you have knitting friends that you connect with really well in on the internet and in that sort of virtual world. If you get a chance, meet them in real life. It's a little scary sometimes. It feels a little weird because you feel partly like you know them and partly like you don't. But it's every time I've done it, it's been an awesome experience. So I highly recommend it. And last week I got to hang out with Marsha, who's very little on Ravelry and Instagram, and who has the oh gosh, now I'm blanking. Stitch and Twitch and Stitch podcast. I watch it. I just can't always remember what it's called because I think of it as the Very Little Podcast, which it's not. But Marsha and her lovely sister Scylla, who used to be on the podcast with Marsha as well and is taking a break while she's finishing up her studies. They live in British Columbia. And they were out on a holiday. You probably, if you follow other podcasters from the Calgary or from the Alberta area, you probably saw they did a tour all around Alberta, and in amongst their other holiday and vacation sort of things they were doing, they got a fantastic opportunity to meet up with the Grocery Girls in Edmonton, which looked really exciting, and I was totally jealous. And they met up with Jenny of Lone Larch podcast, and they met up with Candace, who's Pin Feathers and Pearls podcast, and they met up with Lara, who is the Fawn Knits podcast. So they were doing what they were ended up calling, or somebody suggested, I think on Instagram, a podcaster's crawl. And I got to meet up with them. Marsha and I had messaged back and forth a few times about when they were going to be here and stuff. And when they actually got into town, I got home from work, I think it was a week ago, last Friday night. And she sent me a message wondering if I wanted to meet up on Saturday to go to one of the local yarn stores here. But when I'm doing theatre, I work through the weekends. We rehearse all day Saturday and all day Sunday, as well as most of the weekdays. We usually have Mondays off. So I had to message her back and say, sadly, I can't do Saturday unless you want to meet up after I get off work, which is about 6:30 in the evening. So she then got back to me and said, well, why don't you come and have dinner with us right now? And she was staying, she and Scylla were actually staying with Carla, who also has the Knitniks podcast here in Calgary, and who's another person that I've chatted with on the internet, but haven't actually met up with in real life. And Marsha said, Carla's totally cool. If she would love you to come over for supper and hang out with us here. So I did. I grabbed my husband was actually out of town, and I didn't have any plans for that evening. And so it was perfect opportunity. I just grabbed my stuff, my knitting basically, and hopped in the car and went to Carla's house and hung out with Carla and Marsha and Scylla and Marsha's two fantastically beautiful little girls, and Carla's lovely husband and dog, and we had a really lovely evening. Carla and her husband Tim made dinner for us, which was so nice, and we sat around and we knit and we talked and got to know each other, and it was a truly lovely evening, and I thoroughly enjoyed meeting all three of them, and I'm looking forward to when I get to do it again, hang out with them. So that was a really nice little kind of treat to my week last week. And then the other thing that was kind of fun and exciting and not knitting related really at all, but was Monday night. We have here in Calgary, we have as I said, I work in the theatre, and we have a pretty large and dynamic professional theatre community here. I think we have about 8 or 10 professional theatre companies of varying different sizes, and we have an awards evening. It's called the Betty Mitchell Awards, and there are sort of small version of the Tonys or something, where every year they give out awards in a bunch of categories, best play and best actor and all that kind of stuff. And I was getting presented a special award this year. There are a couple of what they call juried awards that they give out every year. There's one that they give out that's for excellence and the excellent contribution to the development of theatre for young audiences, and there's one in musical theatre, and there's one for contribution to technical production side of theatre. And I was given that very lovely thing. I was given that award this year, so that was on Monday night. That was a lot of fun. My husband and I went. He was actually also nominated for something. He didn't win, but he has in the past, so no we didn't feel bad about that at all. He composes music sometimes for theater, and he was nominated twice actually for two different productions that one that he composed music for, and one that he compiled other people. It was a Christmas play, and there were a lot of sort of Christmas songs that he played live in the show. And so yeah, that was a very nice thing. On Monday, we got all dressed up and went to the award ceremony, and I was super nervous because I had to get up and accept an award and make a speech and stuff. But it went very well. It was a lovely evening. We had a great time. So yeah, that's kind of the things that have been going on in my world this week, in addition to, as I said, my crazy, super huge pile of work, which I'm hoping is going to get a little smaller as the weeks go on. So let me show you the things that I've been knitting on this week in my tiny amounts of spare time. The first one, I don't think I've shown it. Last week, I don't think I had started this, or 2 weeks ago, the last time I recorded. I don't think I'd actually started this. I think I just talked about it. And this is the Asana shawl. It's by Helen Stewart from who's the Curious Handmaid. And she's got the Shawl Society that, if you've watched before, you will have seen that I'm in the Shawl Society, which is a club, a shawl club, and you get a pattern a month for 6 months. And this is pattern number 3. I'm getting farther and farther behind on, there's pretty much no way this is going to be finished by the end of the first week of September, but I'm plugging along on it. Right now, what I have to show you is essentially a whole bunch of garter stitch. This is the top portion of the shawl. It's going to be a lovely sort of crescent shaped shawl. There's a lot of lace that happens. I'm almost finished with this garter stitch portion. It's about that big. I've got about maybe 10 more rows to go, I think, and then it gets into lace. It is nice and easy at this point for when I get home and do get the energy up to pick up my needles and work on it. It's going to get a little more challenging when I get into the lace and have to kind of pay attention. But I've looked at the pattern, and it doesn't look like it's a particularly difficult lace pattern if you've knit lace before and kind of know how to follow the charts. So the yarn I'm using, which is just super pretty, and I'm really enjoying working with it, is the yarn I did talk about this where's my tag? Last time I recorded it. This is yarn that I picked up on our trip to Portland, to Oregon and Washington in August, early August. This is a Washington dyer. The brand is Jorstad Creek. Apologies if it's that's the light this time of day. It doesn't even look like it's focusing, which is kind of a drag. But anyway, it's Jorstad Creek, Jorstad. And the yarn is called Hebrides, and it's a 75% superwash merino and a 25% tussis silk. And the color is toffee. And it's a lovely, beautiful yarn. It's got a little bit of that lovely shine to it because it's silk, the tussis silk. It feels a tiny bit, it feels lovely and soft in the ball. It feels a little bit more kind of crunchy, if that sounds right, knitting it up. But I'm pretty sure that when I wash it, it's going to go back to feeling pretty nice and soft. I sure hope so, but I think it will. So I'm enjoying working on that. Like I said, it's not super exciting to show you right now because it's just a lot of garter stitch, but it's coming along, and hopefully by the next time I record, I'll be into the lace and I will be able to show you something more interesting. And the only other thing that I've worked on at all since I spoke with you last is this is a project that I've been working on at work. It's one of the few nice things about what I do as a stage manager is that I can often knit at work, totally depending on what we're doing at a given moment or what we're doing in the day, but with certain kinds of things that we do in rehearsal in the rehearsal hall, I'm doing a lot of note taking and running sound cues for our rehearsals and all kinds of things like that, sitting at a desk. And there's a fair amount of time where, as long as I'm working on something that doesn't take up much concentration, a pretty mindless project, I can totally knit. So this is what I've been knitting on in rehearsal. Oh, and it's showing it beautifully here. It's actually, the colors are popping even better here than they actually due to my eye, which is kind of cool. Those purples are popping out a little brighter on the camera, which is kind of fun. This is, I did show this yarn last time. This is some of the yarn I got in Portland on our trip. This is Black Trillium Fibers, and this is in the colorway, the 11th Doctor, which is a Doctor Who color. These colors, I think, are inspired by the colors that the 11th Doctor wears, the sort of goldy browns and purples and blacks. Really pretty. And this is going to be this is a sock weight hat that I'm making for my 12-year-old nephew. My two nephews who are 10 and 12 love these, like, sort of, it's like a sockhead hat, except that I've adapted this pattern so much. I cast on less stitches than a sockhead. I don't do as much ribbing. I've got about 3 inches of ribbing there, maybe 2.5. Anyway, it's what works for my nephew. So I'm making actually pretty good progress on this. I just sort of sit and work on this in our rehearsal hall when I have a few moments here and there, and it's easy to pick up and drop on the go. And I think I'm about probably another, excuse me, about another 2 inches before I'll start doing crown decreases on it. So I will probably then cast on another one of these. Excuse me, I got a little frog in my throat. Oh, and I gotta hurry up. I can tell I'm losing the light. Oh, that's what happens when you try and podcast at 7:30 at night. And it's not that it's getting dark here just yet. It's just the sun is getting to a point where it's starting to go behind the trees in my yard. So anyway, those are the two things that I am working on. I told you it wasn't going to be very exciting. I apologize. I do have one acquisition to show you. The first shawl that I did for the Shawl Club, for the Houndstewart Shawl Club, the Shawl Society, was I won a prize for. I was surprised. I didn't even realize that there were prizes. I guess you got your shawl done and posted your picture within about a month. I think it was a month from when she released the first pattern. Then all those people were eligible, and I found out, I think actually through one of my very kind viewers who messaged me. I had been talking on my podcast about how I never win anything, and she messaged me and said, you should check out Helen's latest podcast episode. She does an audio podcast called The Curious Handmaid, I'm pretty sure. And she said, you should go and listen to that because I think you won a prize on that, which was really fun. So I did, and I did win a prize for my first shawl in the Shawl Society, and it's this lovely skein of Northbound Knitting by Lisa Munch is the dyer, and then she's a Canadian, both a dyer, yarn dyer, and a designer. She does beautiful shawl designs. If you haven't checked hers out, you should. I said it's Lisa, not Munch, but Much, I believe. Anyway, it's northboundknitting.com is her website. She's also all over Ravelry. You can find her there. And I got this beautiful skein of the superwash fingering, merino fingering in the colorway Besotted. And it's really pretty. It's like these grays and silvers, and then it kind of goes into this taupe here, and then there's brown in there, and then there's this great pop of pink, sort of dusty pink. So very pretty, sort of gentle, almost neutral colors. I'm looking forward to something with that. I don't know what yet. Probably, I was going to say probably socks, but I don't know. Maybe not. Anyway, so that was my one stash acquisition, because that's the other thing when you work all the time is you don't even have time to buy yarn. Plus I'm trying not to buy any more yarn off the internet for a while. Anyway, so that's what's up in my actual knitting world. I haven't had any time to do any sewing. I have my lovely fabrics that I bought in Scotland at the beginning of July sitting staring at me, begging me to sew up some project bags, but I haven't had the chance yet. I'm going to get to that just as soon as I can clear a little bit more work off my work off my plate, and I look forward to the opportunity to do that. So lastly, I have a couple of pieces of business that I'm going to mention. First of all, I had a thread open in our group. I have a group on Ravelry for the podcast. It's called the See, I'm tired. It's a long day. It's the Creative Mojo group. You can find it if you search under groups, and you should really come along and join us. It had been a lot more active until I got so busy and then was away for a while. It's kind of quieted down a bit, but I'm going to do my best to kind of keep things going in there, and more on that in a minute. But I had a little draw for the Superpower Shawl by Christine Beeson. This was a pattern that I test knit earlier in the summer, in June, I think. And Christine very generously offered to allow me to give away a copy on the podcast to a lucky viewer. So I did a random number generator draw just before I started filming, and that the winner of that was post number 3, who is Mystery Sewer. It's funny, when I first wrote it down, I totally thought Mystery Sewer. I thought, what a funny Ravelry name. And I was like, no, dummy, it's Mystery Sewer. And her real name is Sandy, and she's from Queensville, Ontario, and she won that pattern. So Sandy, if you, I was gonna say if you message me on Ravelry, but you don't even have to do that. I have your Ravelry information. So I will get in touch with Christine and ask her to gift you that pattern. So congratulations. And yeah, so that's that. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that I would like to start up a simple another little cow. I always think they're great for, like, you know, keeping us talking and engaged with each other. And I really do like to engage with you guys and know what you're working on and what you're doing and stuff. So when I think of cows, I think about cows, I like to think of things that have a fairly broad kind of topic, so that lots of people can participate, and it's not going to put tons of pressure on you that you know can only participate if you knit this particular pattern or whatever. I'm always looking for things that are more about engaging with each other and working on something together, but allowing it to be a project that hopefully will fit into what you might be working on or want to work on. Or so I did mention this, I mentioned this on the last couple episodes, but I'm going to officially kick it off with this episode, and I think we will run it until middle of October. October 15th, maybe I'll close it. That gives about just over 6 weeks, I think. And my idea for this cal is I'm calling it Don't Put Baby in the Corner. And if you are familiar with, remember the movie Dirty Dancing, there's a lovely thing where the Patrick Swayze character, that's one of my sort of favorite older, cheesy, fun movies. I totally enjoy watching it over again. And he's got a great reference where he pulls her up, gets her up to dance, and he says, "Nobody puts baby in the corner." And I was just thinking about my propensity to take the most beautiful skeins of yarn I own, the ones that I feel like are the most precious, and put them away and not knit with them because they're too precious to knit with. And so that sort of inspired me with that idea of not to put my precious things in the corner, but to bring them out and knit with them. So I'm going to show you that. And so that's the idea for this cal is pick a skein of yarn that either you have in your stash that you've been kind of hoarding because it's so beautiful, or if you don't have, I know not everybody has the kind of insane stash that I have. If you don't have a whole ton of stash, and you maybe don't have something you feel like fits into this category, you could also buy or you know, order that skein of yarn that you've been kind of thinking about ordering, that because it's so pretty. Order one off the internet, spoil yourself a little bit, or go to your local yarn store and pick out something really beautiful, or it could be a special fiber. It doesn't have to necessarily be, you know, it could be the fiber, it could be the color, it could be the brand, whatever it is. Pick something that feels precious to you and knit with it. And it's one skein of yarn. It can be, it doesn't have to be one, but it can be as little as one. It can be any weight. I tend to hoard beautiful single skeins of fingering weight, but you may not all do that. So it can be one skein, and it's just something that feels beautiful and precious to you. And you can do any pattern with it. And come in the group, and I'll open a thread and show us the beautiful yarn. I'd love to see pictures. I love the before and after thing. So I'd love to see a picture of the yarn that you are planning to knit with in the skein, and then a picture of what you end up knitting with it. If you have project ideas and stuff, I will probably put some single skein fingering weight project suggestions in there, because I have some good ones that are nice for certainly what I tend to hoard is colorful, beautiful, colorful skeins. I'll show you what I am going to knit with, because this is a classic example of something. I bought this over a year ago. I bought it at the Zombie Knit Apocalypse that I went to in the summer of 2015. And I love this yarn. I pull it out of my stash all the time and look at it. And I haven't knit with it because it felt too pretty and precious. And I haven't really figured out a pattern for it yet, but that's going to be my little journey. So look at this beauty. This is Stimpy Lab. She's a dyer out of California. I love her stuff. This is my favorite thing, which is beautiful bright colors of yarn. I love it's my favorite. I would surround myself with soft, brightly colored, beautiful, deep, rich, saturated colors. And this just gets me. It's all these like purple. Yeah, and look at all the sparkle in that. Tons of sparkle in that. And it's all these purples going into purples and pinks, going into hot, like fuchsia pinks. There's some oranges in here. There's some oranges and greens and bright green going into yellow. It's like kind of like a crazy rainbow gone bad, maybe. The colorway is Rave in a Graveyard. And yeah, I just love this. This has been, like I said, something that I pull out every time I kind of go wading through my stash. And I haven't figured out what to do with it, but I'm going to cake it up and make something out of this. So I will, as I said, I will put some pattern suggestions in the thread of single fingering weight patterns, because that's kind of what I am good at figuring out, is patterns for single skeins of fingering weight. But if others want to make pattern suggestions there, that would be great. And yeah, I'll figure out some prizes for us and we'll give that a go. So and that's going to be my super short episode, I think, for this week. I hope that I will do an episode again within about 10 days. I won't yeah, my big event, the big event that I'm still doing for my Asian Heritage job happens on Monday. So hopefully things will slow down a tiny bit. The Labor Day weekend, I have a bit of time. So I will hopefully record on the Labor Day weekend is my next recording. And in that vein, I would love it if you guys had some ideas of suggestions of stuff that you might like me to talk about. As I said, I think for a few weeks, my knitting productivity is going to be a bit down as it has been today. I will have some things to show you, but maybe not as much as I had through the summer when I had a bit more time. So in terms of content, I've been thinking of some ideas, but I'd love to hear if you have things that you would like to ask me or topics that you would like me to talk about. I have a few things that I've thought of, like I think I will maybe for my next episode pull out a couple of my favorite knits. I have a few things that for different reasons, mostly I was thinking about, I have a couple of patterns that I've knit more than once that are things that I really, really love and that I wear and use a lot. And again, they mostly are patterns for single skeins of fingering weight, but and that were fun knits and stuff. And I thought I'd maybe pull out a few of those and talk about them. But yeah, I would love some input if you have things that you would like me to talk about, or questions that you have, or you know, interests or things that I've maybe touched on that you think I could, in previous episodes, that I could talk about more, or any of that. Please do come over to the group and give some suggestions there, or you can also do it in the down bar here on YouTube. Yeah, and if you enjoyed this episode, it'd be great if you liked it. You click the little like button, and if you haven't subscribed, it's always great to subscribe, especially right now while I'm so busy. My recording schedule is going to be a bit erratic. It's not going to be necessarily the same day every week, so subscribing means that you get a little notification when a new episode pops up. And that's all I'm going to do for today. I can totally see as I talk to you that the light is getting slowly dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. And it's not your eyes, it's the light in my room. So anyway, yeah, thanks so much for tuning in and watching this slightly shorter than normal and slightly darker than normal and less knitting than normal episode. Maybe that's what I should be calling it, is less than normal. I don't know. One of those two titles. But anyway, until next time, happy knitting.